So my name is Tara. For those of you who don't know me, I work with Ivy. And for those of you who are new to Ivy, Ivy is a community and business management software for designers. So for people like you would use Ivy to build your proposals and send through tear sheets and invoice your clients online, track and bill for your hours, all of that fun stuff. But we also love to provide education to designers. So every Wednesday, we bring on a different industry expert to the Ivy webinar stage to present something specific relevant to their business, something that's going to help you be more educated on this specific topic, something that's going to help you be more profitable for your business. So we're bringing back John from Revel Woods. And for those of you who do not know Revel Woods, they're incredible. They're founded by a lifelong wood flooring industry group of veterans who supply curated and craft flooring online in a customer-specific boutique way. And they have a very unique algorithm which ensures that people like you are shopping only the floors recommended for your specific climate, subfloor, and lifestyle. So today, John's going to be taking the stage and talking all about wood and how you can turn wood services into a profitable service for your clients. And so I will be giving him the stage. And so please stay with us, ask questions. He'll be answering all of your questions at the end of the webinar. And for those of you who are not yet using Ivy, stick around at the end. We'll be doing a little 15-minute demo. So stick around and thank you.
All right, I'm going to jump into this. I got a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to go kind of quickly. So everyone, hands and feet inside the cart at all times. Secure your personal belongings because this train is not stopping until we get to the end. All right, so my name, for those of you who don't know or saw my last webinar, I'm John Dupre from Revel Woods. And we're a company, as Tara kind of already laid out the intro, so I won't repeat all that. But we have a hardwood flooring background. We've been involved in this industry really my whole life. My father was an installer when he started and then opened a wholesale distributor. I worked for a manufacturer for a few years and then came on board and we started kind of an online retailer with the idea of changing the way that flooring can be sourced for the next generation. So we also noticed that we really wanted to have a real trade heavy focused, and that's kind of why we've been doing this. So a little bit of an intro. First, thank you so much to Ivy. This is the second time we've done this. The first one, we loved it. We love them, their software. Full disclosure, I am not an interior designer. If I showed you around my kitchen right now, you would agree. But so I've never actually used the software, but I can tell you that they are also known for their community, and their community is amazing. I can't tell you the software is amazing, but I've heard it is. And if you stick around afterwards, they will tell you why it's amazing because they actually know how it works. Okay, so today, if you were at my last webinar, this is kind of like, that was 101, and this is going to be 102. So the first one was about all about hardwood flooring, the basics, what it is, what it isn't, what it's for, how to use it, really just like why you could get this into your projects. But today I want to talk really about why and how you can use it as a business. Right now, a lot of designers are not sourcing their flooring, and there's a number of reasons for that. There's three main hurdles, and I'm going to go through them all, and then we'll kind of talk about how to overcome them if you want to use this as a revenue stream, because you are working in and around this. There's no reason why we can't also turn this into some money. So we're going to talk about your clients and hardwood flooring, why they want it, basically, why this is not a hard sell for them to want this specifically. We're going to talk about sourcing. We're going to talk about traditional sourcing, the whole supply chain from manufacturer through retailer, contractors, the whole nine. So you'll have a pretty good idea of how that works. And then I'm going to talk about installation because that's probably the third big hurdle is what do I do when I get it installed, right? So how to vet an installer, how to keep them loyal to you, and then how to be basically that problem solver. Real quick disclaimer. Everything I mentioned today, I mean, it's a big industry like your industry. I'm going to be speaking in generalities. So what works for one distributor like a JJ Haynes on the East Coast may be a little different for Gallagher on the West Coast. Same with manufacturers, same with installers. So just take that with a grain of salt that if I say something that might not be true for one installer that you met, that's totally possible. So, but we've been around this industry a long time. So I'm going to give you kind of a general overview. All right. Let's get to it. So when I say hardwood flooring, it's important that I tell you what I mean by that. So I do mean solid and engineered are both considered hardwood flooring. And if you wanted more detailed breakdown of what I mean from that, you got to go back and watch the last webinar because I went into pretty good detail. And so from that, I mean it has a real wood veneer. whether it's solid wood throughout or it is a real wood veneer on top, and then it's plywood or other composite materials beneath that. So wood look like vinyl and laminate don't count when I say wood flooring. A lot of the techniques that I'm going to give you here will apply to sourcing those products too, but I'm going to stick to where my main expertise is. As much as I say I have to define hardwood flooring, I'm going to just say, side note, it has become a bit of a controversy, a small controversy in our industry. There was a company that was making a laminate product which means that there's a wood veneer made out of paper with a picture printed on it, and then there's like a material underneath it. It could be plywood, it could be a number of different things. And they were saying that because the paper that the picture was printed on was made out of effectively processed wood, that it was a real wood floor. So it stirred up all this controversy, and now we have to legally define what wood is. 2018, right? So that's why I'm saying that. Okay, so let's talk about why hardwood flooring. So when you're doing a project, a renovation project, hardwood flooring is usually an upsell to most of those renovation projects. It is something that your clients are going to want. It's something that provides enormous value to the space, and there's money in it for you in sourcing that. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So there are some advantages to hardwood flooring. It's got a timeless look. It's hypoallergenic. It's easy to maintain. It's got the longest life cycle of any flooring type. They say tile is forever, and that can be true, but that's not necessarily a good thing. Because tile is much more subjected to trends. So if you had a wood floor installed in the 70s, probably still looks good. That tile floor from the 70s, I can see you all rolling your eyes right now, even though I can't really see you. It will increase the value to most homes and buildings, and it is environmentally friendly and a carbon neutral product, both for the home as well as in the manufacturing process. So I went through this in detail, but I want to review, in the last webinar, I went through this in detail, but I want to review it a little bit for you now, just so you kind of know what I'm talking about. So timeless look, there was no point in recent history, by recent, I mean last few hundred years, not since the 90s, where wood flooring wasn't fashionable. There was, let's see, so we did ask at the National Wood Flooring Association a consumer survey where if you could have your dream home, what kind of flooring do you have? Number one, wood was far and away, 66%, and then tile came in at number 2 at 16. There are 10% of the population out there, though, that see carpet in their dream home. I don't know any of those people, but maybe you do. Okay, so the other thing too, for value, it is expensive, but it really is an investment. Real estate agents have said that with wood floors, those homes sell faster and for more money. Granted, in real estate market right now, this year, it seems like any home with a roof sells, but we got to think more than just this year. In many cases, homes with wood floors sold even up to 10% more. So think, I mean, if you've got a $500,000 or $1 million house, that floor is more than paid for itself when you sell the home. And then we asked too, what type of flooring do you believe helps increase the value of your home the most? 79% with wood. Tile number 2 at 13. Okay, so there are some hurdles with sourcing. If I asked many of you now who are not sourcing flooring, do you source flooring? The answer, at least that I mostly get, is I will make a recommendation. I'll help my client decide, but I let my contractor or the dealer actually purchase the floor, or the client will purchase the floor themselves. So the question I would ask is, should that sale go to you? If you're the one working with the client, if you're making the recommendation, you're technically the one that sold it. There is money being left on the table there. And we're going to talk about, I know why that is. We're going to talk about the specifics so you understand kind of how we got here. And then we can talk about the best ways to overcome them. So the way I've seen it in my research, we see 3 main hurdles. The traditional supply chain. There's a fear of the liability. You know, what am I responsible for? What if I don't pick the right thing? What if it goes wrong? It's an expensive mistake for sure. And then you've got quality installation. Who puts this in and how do I know that's going to be a good job? So I'm going to break all these down. I'm going to break down with the liability, what you're responsible for, what the manufacturer is responsible for, what the installer is responsible for. So we all know who does what. And then we're going to get to talking about the installers. Okay, so traditional sourcing from the forest to the floor. There are 3 main links in this supply chain. You've got your manufacturer, you've got your distributor, you've got your retailer. Now, you have different hybrids. Things can cross lines. It's a little bit messy. So I will tell you a quick word about the supply chain. So flooring has always been kind of a commodity-based market. Back when it was unfinished, it was based on the price of red oak or whatever the species was. And then it was based on the labor to put it in. And then you would have maybe a stain color that you would pick and they would sand and finish it on site. That still happens today, and sand and finished floors look amazing, and nothing quite looks like them. But in recent years, it's becoming more of a fashion and an artisanal product. And the reason I bring that up is because it's always been commodity based. The margins, when you see what sourcing flooring at wholesale or trade programs, they're not going to be as high as some of the things you might be used to, like furniture. So you'll see some trade accounts will offer upwards to 50% off on furniture. And that is, if you say that to anybody at a flooring manufacturer, they'll go, oh, I'm in the wrong business. We're just not that high. So you'll see something that's even 15%, 20%, and they'll go, well, that seems low compared to what I'm used to. Am I getting ripped off? And the answer is no, you are not. It is a high volume item. So margins have always been traditionally lower. So I say that so that when you start getting into this, you have the right mindset and expectation. But even 5-10% on $15,000 is money that was left on the table previously. Okay, so here's a sketch that I made myself of the supply chain using some free flowchart software. It's kind of messy. I'm going to come back to this later, but you see that top line of the manufacturers and then the distributor, which in many industries has been cut out, but serves a really valuable purpose in flooring. And we'll talk about why that is. And then you've got kind of your contractor, your retailer, and that third line down. And then you have a wholesaler, which will sometimes buy from a manufacturer, and then other times will buy from the distributor. There's trade-offs with anytime you have kind of a jack of all trades like that. And then you'll see the designer kind of floats out there by themselves. And if they're buying it all, they're probably buying from the retailer or maybe even a contractor, general contractor or flooring contractor. So don't worry about this. I'm going to come back to this in a little bit, but I want you to see it's a little messy. Okay, so that top line. Let's talk about manufacturers. This is where the flooring factory actually is. So their costs are based on really two things, raw materials and the manufacturing process. You know, their overhead tends to be really low. So their price when you buy directly from a manufacturer is lower. It's a low cost of sale. So you think, great, how do I do that? Well, here's the trade-offs. If you buy from a manufacturer, they are not set up for smaller logistics. Shipping individual orders is very difficult and expensive for them. So they're not set up for smaller orders in general. They're definitely not set up for any kind of detailed customer service or the sales process that would need in walking a client through the sales process. And then in order to make money, to justify it at their price, because they're working on commodity pricing and relatively low markups, they have to make an enormous amount of each SKU. So the idea of like making your 400 square foot bedroom, especially for you at a good price, is not going to happen. In fact, one of our suppliers, whom the owner of which is a personal friend of mine, she will say anything that's not a running line, you want to order a specific floor, it's an 8 pallet minimum is the absolute best they can do. And a pallet is a little under 1,000 feet. So if you were able to buy directly from a manufacturer, great, your square footage price is lower, but you're going to need to clean out your garage because you're going to have 8 pallets of each individual. I mean, you have a collection that has 6 colors, 7 colors. You need 8 of each pallets of each of those colors to buy from the manufacturer. So sounds good, but is a little more difficult. And so that brings us to the distributor. So a wholesale distributor usually works regionally. So they also are working based off of that commodity pricing. They do not have the same amount of overhead because they have minimal sales and marketing resources. They may have a showroom, but usually they don't. They can hold a much wider variety of inventory, so they can manage smaller orders. So now they're down to pallet size as opposed to 8 pallets per order. And so they're selling mostly to other flooring professionals, whether it's retailers or sometimes contractors. It depends. You know, each one's a little different. So you think, okay, selling from distribution, that's probably where the best piece is. But here's the downside in that. So they're not always set up for specific logistics. You might find a distributor that does job site deliveries, but they're rare. We do it on our wholesale side, but it's tough. And but you can do some smaller orders. They do have a little bit better customer service than the manufacturer, but it's not designed for the consumer. It's designed to deal with the rep from another flooring company. So much more serious problems, not kind of your typical questions. They're not really set up for the sales process at the individual level. They're not really open to the public. I know when people send the public to our distribution location, They complain because they can't find it. We have to tell them it's counted by design because we're constantly turning people away. And then you usually do have to have an account to buy. And there are some pretty strict requirements. Distributors are very protective of their professional customers. And in many cases, they require a flooring showroom themselves, and talking to some of them. Not always, but a lot of them do. So that kind of leads down the next level of the chain. And that brings us to retailers. So retailers are much more consumer friendly, obviously. They've got a wide selection of products. They're located multiple retailers in many different towns. You're probably not too far away from one. That's the flooring store off the highway. They're usually fully set up showrooms, sales teams, customer service teams, no order too small, no customer too cranky. So that's great. But the downside is they do have the overhead. They'll sell anyone in the public, but sometimes they can handle the installation. So usually what we see in this, when we go back to the supply chain, is that we have the designer ends up working mostly with the retailers, and there isn't really room for the designer in the traditional supply chain because the distributors usually a lot of times are afraid to sell them. And with the retailers, they may give a small kickback. If you find a good distributor, you find a good retailer, you can absolutely source through the traditional supply chain. But this is why it's typically tricky. And I know this because we've been at the distribution level for a really long time. So we'll get to the online side, but I want to move on to kind of the next issue. So this is liability. This is another thing that people are afraid of. When they say, okay, I don't know much about flooring. I just let my contractor deal with it. I don't know. There's a lot that can go wrong. So let's talk a little bit about that. So this is the part where everybody grab your marshmallows and your chocolate and your graham crackers, because this is the part where the story gets a little scary. But I'm going to walk you through it. It's going to have a happy ending. So liability, and I don't mean just the name of my metal band in high school. Okay, so 3 main points for liability. You've got the manufacturer, right? You've got the salesperson, whether that's the retailer, distributor, or hopefully the designer. And then you have the installer. And I'm going to talk about kind of who's liable for each in this. Okay, so first, manufacturer. They've got the most money. They made the floor. You think they're the most liable. Not always. Here's the things that the manufacturer is mostly liable for. So if the floor fails, and by the way, flooring failures are rare, but this is something that people are afraid of, so we're going to talk about it. Like I said, campfire story. If it fails due to any defect caused by the actual manufacturing process and it wasn't detected during installation, and I'll come back to that point because that's important. So what does that look like? One example could be delamming from either the glue or the finish not being properly applied. And that means like on an engineered floor, you have those layers. If the layers start to split because it wasn't done properly, we've worked with manufacturers in the past where that's happened due to a glue failure or whatever. That's completely on them. If it's mismilled, I would say it's rare too. And at Revel Woods, we don't source from the manufacturer. We have the biggest problem with mismilling. That's another one. If the quality assurance wasn't there, the flooring might not go together right, or one end could be wider than the other, so it causes these weird gaps, right? Because once it's not lining up right. If it hasn't been dried or manufactured properly, improper moisture content, those are all things the manufacturer is going to cover. Now you'll see something with the manufacturing warranty. All these floors, every floor is warranted. I'm going to give you a little pro tip, and don't tell anyone I told you this, but do not make a selection based on the manufacturer warranty. They are not what you think they are, and they never really get paid out. And by that, I mean, and what do I mean by warranty? Because manufacturers will stand behind their work. But what I mean by the warranty is they'll say, this has a 25-year warranty. This one has a 40-year warranty. So I'm going to go with the one with a 40-year warranty. Those warranties never get paid out. 25 years from now, if you discover there was a manufacturing issue with the floor, that is highly unlikely. Any manufacturing issue with the floor is going to show up either right away, 90% show up during installation, the other 10 show up within the first year. I've never seen somebody pay out a 20-year warranty. So they put it on there. They can say whatever they want. Lifetime warranty, whatever. Don't worry about it. So that is more of a marketing ploy. So just a heads up on that, because honestly, the warranties don't cover real wear and tear. So if something happens and it scratches or it wears through, they will just point to say, well, you you were using it wrong, or you scratched it and it's not covered by that. So you want to make a selection when you do, really better based on the manufacturer reputation. Because like I said, a good manufacturer, and that's what we did. We only source from people that I know them personally. I've been to their places. I call them, we talk on the phone. If there's an issue, if they did it, if it's on the manufacturer, they're going to have you back. Okay, so let's talk about the salesperson. This is where you would mostly fall under. And I use the whack-a-mole picture because if you're like me and you're dealing with clients and all their issues, this is probably an apropos description of your day-to-day activities. At least it is for me. So here's what the salesperson is liable for. Usually it's because the wrong type of product was selected for the situation. And by that, I mean the environment wasn't right, or it was the wrong subfloor, or it was below grade. You source something that was very soft or scratched very easily for an active lifestyle, or there's another outside issue like a radiant heat, and you selected or purchased something that isn't warranted over radiant heat. If you do something like that and the floor fails, the manufacturer is not going to have your back. They're going to say, why did you put a solid hickory in the lake house? Like, we would never have recommended that. The good news to overcome this, at least with Revel Woods, is our Revel Woods selector. If you go to the website, before you see any product, you have to answer questions based on all of this. And so everything you see is something we already guarantee for that situation. So at least that offloads pretty much all of that liability from you. If you pick the wrong thing for the wrong environment, we absorb that liability because we recommended it if you were truthful in the way you filled out our selector for each space. So that is really what the salesperson's liable for. And I want to talk about the installer, because their job is really tough. And then I'm going to get focused on an entire section, but this is a brief overview. This isn't even everything, but this is what they're liable for. So if something goes wrong, this is what is the installer's fault. Some examples: it wasn't measured properly, so they don't have enough material. It wasn't laid out properly. And so when you lay out a floor, any wood floor is going to have, outside of China, is going to have random lengths. So you're going to have some of our floors go up to 8 feet long. But there will be some 16-inch pieces in those floors too. It's every single wood floor you buy is going to be like that. So if you put two of the same length next to each other and the end butts match up, that's on the installer. If there's pieces that don't look as good, or they're shorter and they put them in the high traffic areas, that's on the installer. There's an art to this and how it's laid out. So improper layout. If the subfloor isn't properly prepped, if it's too wet, if it's not flat, if it's all these things, that's on the installer. They have to know when and how to do this. If the floor somehow doesn't have the right moisture content, the installer is responsible for testing that. We test everything that we ship out before it ships out, but if the job site's not ready for flooring, or it hasn't been stored right, it's been left in the garage, it's been left in the driveway, and then it gets wet, that again can fall on the installer. So if they install something that has been, it isn't right. Oh, hey, look, we have more. Not using the right installation techniques. Maybe they used a glue that wasn't manufacturer approved, or they use the wrong fasteners. They use a 16 gauge cleat instead of an 18 gauge cleat. Am I making you all want to be flooring installers? They have the improper nail schedule. And that means like a certain number, each board has to have a certain number of nails. They have to be a certain number of inches apart. And when they do inspections, they can test this. They have these round, like rare earth magnets, and they roll them on the floor, and then they'll stick where the nails are. So they can't hide that. So if a floor is supposed to have a particular board is supposed to have 4 nails in it, and it only has 1, they can spot that. Or if they use the wrong, like I said, the wrong fastener, if you use a different gauge, it breaks the tongue in the tongue and groove, and then the floor squeaks. Using the wrong moisture barrier. Maybe they think it's still 1967 and they're using red rosin paper, and instead of the right moisture barrier paper if it's being nailed down. We, just side note, ship moisture barrier paper free with every floor that we sell. So if it is being nailed down, we will send for free, just included the recommended moisture barrier, so they don't have to worry about that necessarily. If it's being glued down, though, it's a different situation. The installer should know how to do that. And then finally, too, if they install a product that was defective, the manufacturer it was a manufacturing defect, and they didn't stop the job, then it's on them. So if this is bad wood, if the finish is already peeling and they still install it, then it's on the installer. It's not on the manufacturer at that point. So there is a lot that the installer is responsible for. So that kind of comes to the next hurdle. How do I make sure that this is installed right? And it's not as bad as you think. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about flooring installers. I touched on this briefly in the last one, but I want to really drill down and tell you how to vet them, how to find them, because if you can overcome this, you've got a source of flooring that you like, you know exactly what you are and are not liable for, and you're comfortable sourcing the right product. And then you have an installer that you work with that you know is good, that will take your call, that puts you at the top of your list. You're going to be making money with this product, no problem. So let's talk about that installing hurdle. Okay, so we're going to talk about finding an installer. I'm going to mention some of the certification programs that are out there that I like. We're going to get into the mind of an installer, so you kind of know what's important to them, so how to win them over, and then effectively develop a long-term relationship. So let's get into that. So installers first are mostly craftsmen. They do really love this craft. I'm involved in a lot of Facebook groups and that are installer focused. This meme here is one that someone posted on there. I mean, they're a lot like you in that they really love what they do. I imagine most of you became designers because you genuinely love designing. And that's been a lot of them too. They've developed this kind of craftsman passion for wood flooring specifically. Some of them, the experts at least, some of them will do wood flooring, but as part of what they do, but they do some other stuff. We'll talk about that too. But they're craftsmen first. Some of them also were business people that got into installing flooring. But the vast majority of them were craftsmen first, and they sort of turned it into a business, and they're figuring out the business aspect as they go. Installers also, they want to get paid on time. They want to, like many of us in that business fact, they want to offload as much of that as they can so that they can focus on the thing that they love. But they have a lot of things they're ultimately responsible for. So it's important to know that, to understand what they're afraid of and understand their motivations so that we can get them to want to work with us. Okay, so a lot of designers, when they say, okay, selling the floor, they're worried about, okay, well, doesn't the installer want to make this selection? Usually my contractor wants to be involved in this. They do care about selection, but the majority of them do care, but not for the reasons that most people would think they care. They don't really care as much about aesthetics. They want it to look good, but if you have this weird seafoam green something or other, they won't. I've yet to meet, I should say again, generalities. I've yet to meet an installer that would say, I'm not going to install that. That's an ugly color. The money aspect is a little more important, but more often than not, I see a lot of independent installers that say, look, here's source of material, or here's my distributor, just go pay my price, which is, I think, foolish, but they do that. I don't even care. They're really focused on the labor costs. So if they can get easy money on the labor costs, they're not going to want to do the hand holding for the selection process and come back with samples and this isn't the right shade of gray. And that really is something that you guys are more specialized in than many of them are. So what do they care about? Well, they do get nervous when they hear that a homeowner or a designer or someone that's not a traditional wood flooring professional is sourcing the floor. And the reason is they know that the decision that is made by that crowd, mostly based on looks and money. What ends up happening in those cases is they're worried because what is it that I'm going to have to install? How difficult is this going to be to install? And then what you see all the things they're liable for. All of that, if it's bad, comes back on them. So they get very nervous in that way. I know an installer who sent a customer of theirs to Lowe's. They picked something out. Maybe it wasn't Lowe's. It was a big box store. I don't want to say Lowe's because it might not have been, but it was a big box store, and sent them to this big box store, and they purchased a product, and they purchased based on price, and the installer really had to fight with it. It should have taken him 2 days to do the entire job, and it took him close to 5, and it wasn't fitting together right. He had to really work to get the floor installed. He ended up having to knock it in too tight, and there wasn't enough space, and the floor buckled. And an inspector said the installer was at fault because it was installed too tight together, and it didn't leave enough room, and he ended up being sued. So that, not only did he lose money because it took twice as long as he thought to install it, but then he got sued over it. So that is what they care about. They want to make sure that something that is right for the job and is something they're going to be able to work with. That is the most important issue for most of them. So you can be a hero to them. If you are sourcing the product yourself, make sure you source something that is high quality and easy to work with. That it's going to go in, it's going to be installed is from somebody that if they have any questions, they can get in touch with them. They know exactly what to do with that. If you have the logistics of the job sorted out, it's booked ahead of time. Note that these guys are really, really busy. The good ones. If someone can do the job tomorrow, it's either a slow time of year or I would be concerned. I know some of our best guys in our local market are booking into September right now. So when you are sourcing flooring, I don't have a slide for this, but it's a good tip. Have it all sorted out ahead of time. It's one of the last things to go in, but it should be one of the first things selected. And I know with us, you can select your delivery date and it can be 6 months from now and you can change it anytime before it ships. So you just have the flooring locked in. We've had a few designers that have come to me, said, I need someone to install this. When's it going in? Next week. And it's like, oh, okay. It has ended up working out okay, but a lot of the best guys are booked out. So make sure you're planning ahead. So that's with the logistics. Make sure everyone gets paid on time. I know this seems like it should be so obvious, but it really, you've had to chase clients for money, right? You know what that's like. They know what that's like. They have to chase people for money all the time with their respective jobs. If they know that when I work with you, they're good jobs. I have installers coming to me saying, how do I get these high-end designer jobs? How do I get to know these high-end interior designers? They want to work with you. And if it's good material, they know that they just have to show up, do the thing that they're the best at. It's going to look great. They're going to get paid on time. When they're busy and you call them, you immediately shoot to the top of the list. They would consider that easy money for them, even though you're making the money on the material and not them. They still would be happy with that. So that's a tip. Let's talk about now, maybe you don't have an installer you're working with yet. Let's talk about some vetting processes. There are certifications. There is no national certification in terms of a union or like a federal regulation that you would get with like an electrician or something like that, where you have to be certified. Some states do require contractors to be licensed. I think Oregon requires a certain amount of hours every month or whatever they do. But we don't really have that for wood flooring in terms of legally, at least certainly not national. So the NWFA, which stands for National Wood Flooring Association, is probably the most comprehensive certification. That is a trade organization dedicated to wood flooring contractors specifically. Right now, it is considered the industry standard. It's product neutral. It is very comprehensive. I know this because the guy who runs its name is Brett, and he's a friend of mine, and he's really good at what he does. So the other thing, you might not have heard of the NWFA. They are so internal in terms of the trade organization, but they are in talks now of creating a consumer brand mostly for education, because it's a trade organization. They're not selling anything, to promote wood flooring. And I know that they're creating this brand because they have recently set up a task force to explore what the branding would be for that. And I know about that task force because they asked me to lead it. So that's fun. And then also some manufacturers have their own certification. Probably the biggest one is Bona. You might have heard of them. They make a lot of cleaners. You've probably seen them at the grocery store, things like that. Bona's program originally started mostly as a sand and finish, like a refinishing certification, but they have branched out into other things. Installation now, they make a lot of glue, so they care about installation. Bona's certified professional program is managed by a guy named Matt, and he's also a friend of mine. He lives in Denver. So I've seen their program, and it is very good. So those are some certifications that we know, and we tend to funnel people through, but not everybody's certified. So what do you do in that situation? Well, there's a couple things you can do. Referrals, this is going to seem obvious, but referrals are always your best bet. If you can get a good referral from somebody who's used someone in the past. Again, those guys are going to be the busiest, so make sure you're thinking ahead. Other places you can go, if you find a wholesale distributor or any kind of material supplier, they might be able to make recommendations. I don't think they're allowed to say this guy is my favorite, but I know people have called us in the past and we've given a list of 5 or 6 names of people that we all like. They're not ranked in any way, but the other thing too, if you're working with us, I'm tied into some, again, like I said, Facebook groups. I know the install community I've been working with the install community for years. So in your specific market, I may be able to also make a recommendation. We don't guarantee with any of these recommendations that it will be 100% perfect, but I can at least get you started. And then you want to ask some pointed questions. How do you install? Are you familiar with glue down, nail down? What do they normally use? What's your experience with wood? Because you may find someone who they do some wood jobs here and there, but they're not experts. And it might still turn out great, but when you get a wood flooring contractor, a lot of times they specialize in that. So it's a good question to ask if you're doing that. Okay, so that's the installation hurdle. I want to come back to sourcing. Sourcing online is kind of the new thing, and it's a little scary. So this is kind of the new frontier, and I want to talk a little bit about kind of what to expect if you're going to be sourcing online. Okay, so the first thing is, yes, it is totally possible to buy something big and technical and heavy like wood flooring online and have a good experience. There are lots of places that will do it, and there are lots of places that are reputable. I would love this to be just a Revel Woods commercial, but it's not true. That we have competitors who are also very good. There are some things you need to be cautious of. That's true of all of us, but there are some serious advantages. So I want to talk about that and how it's kind of disrupting the supply chain. Okay, so a word about online. Typically, most consumer or most retail websites are going to be consumer focused. They're going to have maybe small concessions for trade. Most of the online stores are actually at that retail level as well, and they're trying to cut as much of their overhead as possible. So the pricing is good, but that tends to not leave a ton of room for the trade professional. So you can find just about anything you want online, and online is almost better for finding something specific as opposed to making some money on the actual sale. Because again, it's price centered. I took this picture over here I swiped this from the Home Depot website. I hope they don't mind because this is just their public website. But I saw 367 results just for engineered hardwood. So you could find a lot of stuff on there. Now, I can't tell you what's good or what's not good based on this site, or what will work and not work in your space. And I can also say I went through some of these results, and after about 30 or 40 of them, it does eventually start to look all just like wood. That can be really overwhelming if you don't know specifically what you're looking for. And I know what I'm doing, and eventually it just all looks like wood. So that's one thing about online. There are some other things to be cautious of too. If you find something that's a good deal, where's the company located? Are they located, in the United States? Are they a different company that's just selling in the United States? What is their expertise? Are they a shipping company that's gotten into selling wood? Are they a building supplies company? Are they an everything company that's just good at that, but they offer wood? Maybe you know enough about what you're doing that's fine. I just need this specific product. Wood flooring is still commodity based when you think about it in terms of its pricing. So if you see something that looks amazing and it's a crazy low price, I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying you should have your skeptical hat on. Because that really that should set off some alarm bells. In fact, when a really large flooring company got busted for some illegal sourcing issues, that was what set off the short sellers. Was that, it would be like a gas station. You go to every gas station in town and you see $2.99, $3.01, $2.98, $1.09. And the $1.09 is the most profitable company. You should be worried about that. So the other thing too, is when you buy online versus locally, how's it going to arrive? A lot of these freight services, you try to get the best deal you can on freight because it's a one-time thing, but it's how is it going to arrive? If it arrives damaged, yes, they will pay for it. The freight company will issue a claim. You will get the floor replaced. But what's that going to do to your project? Is that going to set you back? I mean, there's still issues like that. Do you have to reschedule the installer if it doesn't arrive okay? So that's a big one to focus on. And then what's the service level like? But there are some advantages. Big one, right? Online, less overhead. We don't have the retail stores. We don't have the salespeople. We don't have the rent and utilities and plumbing and then the window breaks and the alarm systems and people taking vacation and all this other stuff. So there is less overhead. I will say this, though, that is changing. A lot of online prices are increasing because what we're seeing with this direct-to-consumer, everybody wants to be the Warby Parker of whatever, right? Or the Warby Parker of bath towels. I don't know. As you're seeing that increase, you are the customer acquisition costs are getting crazy. And that I've seen things that saying that's actually becoming the new rent. So people are instead of building in the overhead for retail space, the overhead is coming into customer acquisition costs because everybody's trying to be the Warby Parker of napkin holders. But the other nice thing with online too is a lot of the burdens in selling this can be offloaded. There's no showroom hours. You don't have to travel to a showroom. Sampling can be a lot easier. I know our sampling program is based to give you an idea of what an accurate idea of what the floor is going to look like, but also be portable. If you've ever been to a flooring showroom, you get these big like builder boards and they show a lot of the floor and they're great, but man, they're heavy. And so our box will hold 4 samples. You can carry it around easily, but the 4 of those, you look like a gorilla trying to carry them all around. And the other thing too, when you go to a lot of retail places is you will have to return those samples. I know on our distribution side, we need those back. They're like $40 a piece. We want them back. Whereas, online we'll ship you the samples and you keep them, make a birdhouse out of them. I don't care. And then, if you find a program with good trade benefits, it might be easier than trying to buy locally as well. And then you can also ship to lots of different places. So I'm going to close here. Just a word about us. I didn't want this to be a Revel Woods commercial, but I want to talk about kind of what we're doing in that sense too, if you're interested. So we built our website to be consumer facing. And the reason for that is you don't have to explain everything that can go wrong with wood flooring, why this is better, why you shouldn't get the cheapest thing. Our resources do all that for you. So most of the sales and education process is there. We have recently relaunched our website, actually last week. We built our prototype. We were doing something no one in our industry had done. We had a lot of fun with that, but we noticed there were some things, especially in the trade side, that we could be doing so much better. So like any good website, we scrapped the entire thing and started completely over. And we built a trade program really from the ground up fully. Our last one, if you tried it, it was kind of cobbled together based on off-the-shelf software. And we built the whole thing on a platform from the ground up, designed for the professional. So our program is, it's a discount / rebate or commission program. And the reason for that is we wanted to offer a discount, but we wanted to be able to allow you, if you wanted, to pass a discount on to your client, but still make money. That was really important to us, that if you sourced a floor with us, that you made money doing that. And so we did that kind of with that reason. Now, if you buy it yourself, you can work the discount in as well, but we allow you to do both. Your client can even buy it from their account using your code, get the discount, and then you'll receive the commission. So it was really well thought out, and it's actually fairly aggressive for the flooring industry. And then expert support. We can help you find an installer, or at least point you in the right direction. We don't necessarily take full liability for the installer, but we will at least help get you in the right direction. If they have a question about what this is or trim or what do I need, or if you have a question, we have a dedicated email account, and many of you who've used it, I know that some of you out there have used it, you end up talking to me even directly most of the time. We're a small team, but we're really hands-on. So we want to make sure that you are taken care of before, during, and after the sale. So that's a little bit about what we're doing. If you're interested, you can go to revelwoods.com/pro account. And then our pro dedicated email is pros@revelwoods.com. So feel free to check that out, or shoot me an email, or shoot the pro account an email if you have any questions about any of that. Okay, so I am going to open this up for questions. Let me get off of this and stop sharing my screen. There we go. Okay, so you can see me. Cool. All right, I'm going to take some questions. I finished about 5 minutes earlier. Okay, first question is, where are Revel Woods products sourced from? China, Canada, US? That is an awesome question. Send that person a coffee mug. We actually source exclusively from Canada and the United States. We have, right now we're working with 3 different factories. One's in Tennessee, one's in Wisconsin, and one is just outside of Montreal. So, and we've been to all of them and know the owners personally. So that is I've been to China. The Chinese government actually paid to send me there. I was there in March. I vetted some of the factories there, but we are not sourcing from China. So it's just it's one of those issues for us. I'm not saying you can't get good product from China. You absolutely can. There are some phenomenal, responsible, top-notch products you can get from China and really good people there. But if you do have an issue, it's a long flight. And more often than not, you end up talking to someone who doesn't speak English and you can have a real problem. So we've focused really hard on ensuring that we can, if we do have an issue, something's wrong, something happened, I will call the owners personally and say, look, we got to get this person taken care of. And that's a little easier when we source in the United States. Okay. If we don't have any other questions. Okay, here's a question. How do we work typically with designers? So basically through our pro account, I should mention that too. The discount offered through the pro account, I believe it's 5%, but it is the only, and then the commission is higher than that, but it is the only discount we offer. We don't do Black Friday sales. So they're not going to sit there. If they do try to shop you, they can see the website, but they will see that, oh, I'm getting a deal by going through this designer as opposed to buying it directly themselves, because we don't want you to be shopped. So the other question next is, do you have a local showroom? We do not. We are in talks with maybe doing local showrooms in different parts around the country, but we're a long ways from that right now. Really, we're just online. If you are in the Rochester, New York area and you want to see, where we're out of, we would happily do an appointment kind of viewing. We have a small showroom on our wholesale side that services the region, but we do not do local showrooms on that. So let's see, do we have any other questions? And hopefully that was fairly comprehensive. So we'll take it from there. If anyone has any other questions, throw them in. Otherwise, I will hand it over to my friends at Ivy. So, I did see a question here. Do we ship internationally? Right now, no. We can only ship to the United States, and it's fairly complicated reasoning for that. We would love to be able to ship internationally, but and we hope to someday. But right now, due to some logistics, we are not able to. Okay, so let me see if there isn't anything else. Okay, let me see. There's one more. I'll do one more, then I'll hand it back over. So this question, when a builder gives a preferred vendor showroom, is it still possible to ask for commission back from showroom if the builder is already getting builder pricing? Your mileage may vary. That really depends on what the builder's doing. Sometimes they will, if you're working with a builder or you're working with a showroom, they will sometimes have like a small commission that they'll kick back to the designer. But again, that is purely up to them. It does happen though, and it is totally possible to make some money sourcing that way. Okay, let's see. How do designers set up an account? If you go to our revelwoods.com/pro account, or on the homepage, there's a professionals tab. There's an application, and we do make you apply, and we need things like a tax ID number because we do not want your clients going on trying to suddenly pretend they're you. So we are very protective of our design customers. So you do have to apply, and then once we approve you, we'll send you instructions on how to get in, and you can see all of that. So, all right, cool. Anybody has any other questions, feel free to email me, but I want to make sure that my friends at Ivy get some time here to do their thing. So I'm going to hand it back to them. Tara, if you're out there, I don't know, do I click off of this or do you come back? I see you coming back.
I'm here.
There you are.
So much. Thank you for your time. We love having you. And you always just make wood seem so interesting, and you have such a great sense of humor. So thank you for taking the time today to share with us.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. It's not an act. We genuinely think wood is sexy.
It is.
It can be.
So
cool. Somebody should put that on a t-shirt.
All right, John, have a great day.
Thank you. You too. We'll see you soon.
Okay, bye. So everyone, thank you for sticking around. Again, that was John from Revel Woods. I included their website here in the live chat if you want to learn more about Revel Woods. But for those of you who are new to Ivy and don't know about Ivy, you can stick around for the next 10 minutes. I'm going to invite my colleague Sivan on, who's going to walk you through what Ivy looks like, what Ivy's used for, how it can help you as a designer. So just bear with me 1 second and we'll bring on Sivan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sivan from Ivy. Can you see me okay? Can you see or hear me okay?
Yes, you look and sound great. Thank you, Sivan.
My pleasure, T. So I'm Sivan, like I said. I'm so excited to share Ivy with you. For those of you that don't know what Ivy is, what Ivy looks like, Ivy is a business management software for interior designers. And we help designers streamline, centralize their workflow, get everything together in one place and just make your business a little bit more efficient so that you can meet your bottom line. What I'm going to do is share my screen with you so that you'll be able to see exactly what Ivy looks like. We'll do a quick demo and I'll take you through the workflow. So Ivy is a cloud-based system, meaning you can access it from any computer. You don't need to be behind a specific desktop. And like I said, this is a project management, business management tool. So you can really do everything from start to finish within your project. Personally, I'm going to start with one of my favorite features, which is our Ivy Clipper tool. And it's this little leaf button in the top right-hand corner of my browser. It's a Google Chrome extension. So just like a Pinterest button would sit in your browser, same thing with this clipper. And it allows you to collect product information directly from your vendor's website so you can save it into your Ivy product library. So this is really great. For example, if you were to go to Revel Woods, you could see all of the products that they have. I happen to be on Rebecca Atwood's site. I activate the clipper and I can now collect each individual component. So I'll start with my image. I just need to click on the hand, click on the image, and I can do this for the title. I'll click on the hand, click on the title. I can categorize this item, add my cost. And if you add a default markup to your products, you could set it right here. Otherwise, if there's a target price that you have for the item, you could just set your target price here and Ivy will calculate that markup for you. You can choose your vendor. Basically, if you have a vendor list in Excel, you can import it into Ivy, no problem, and then use that right over here and add your description. And you can add this directly to a project. So if you are sourcing online for a particular project, or if you come across something that you know will be perfect, just add it directly to that project and it'll live right there in your product library and in the project itself. So all of the items that you source online using the Ivy Clipper live in your product library. But we're just going to dive right into a project. And the project, everything lives within the project here. So I'm going to start with a proposal. The proposal is amazing because it allows you to put together all of those different products and services that you want to present to your client. So all we need to do here is click Create New Proposal. And you'll see that wallpaper fabric that we just clipped from the website is already right here in our project. I can add it directly to my proposal with a click. And I can also add all of the different products and services from my library right over here. If you are billing for painting, installation services, you can once again just add those right here directly to your proposal. And what's amazing here is that you'll see that the title, the description, your cost and your markup are set from when you added the item as a product to your library. And you can add the shipping, the markup on shipping if you charge one. And you can also assign it directly to a room. So this is amazing. It allows you to really ideate and present these in a really meaningful way to your client. Here you can request a deposit on your proposal, which we always recommend, and save it. And once you save this proposal, I'm going to show you a couple of different things that you can do with this proposal. You can create tear sheets on the spot. You can also send this to your client digitally by email, which is amazing. It's such a pleasant client experience and they feel really in control. And so once this proposal is saved, all you need to do is click View Tear Sheets. And these tear sheets are made for you. They have your logo at the top. They also have the project's name, the image, the title, the description, and the total cost. So even if you're clipping the unit cost to you, you're clipping the markup and the vendor information, we hide all of that information so that we try to avoid your clients from shopping you. And you can download these as PDFs and send them directly to your client. But what you can also do is, like I mentioned, you could send this directly to your client by email. And one of the best things about that is that it's an interactive proposal. So you can actually give your client line item approval. So this is amazing. It allows your client to approve or decline each item individually rather than saying yes or no to your entire proposal as a whole. And this is so important. It really cuts back a lot of that back and forth that you inevitably have with a client whenever you're discussing items for a project. So here on the attachment section, you can include any attachments that you have. If you have a mood board or if you have a contract, you can include it right here. And then send it off directly to your client by email. And what you'll see in this message is you have a default message that you can tailor on the spot. And you can also request online payment through Ivy. So this is a game changer because the money goes into your bank account in 2 to 3 business days. And you can take online payment by credit card or bank transfer, ACH payments. Credit card has a 3% processing fee and bank transfer has a 1.2% processing fee. But you can always send it just to approval only if that's what you're currently doing. And your client will receive in their email inbox an email from your firm with your logo. It has your firm's information and they don't need to create a login or anything. All they need to do is click View Proposal and they're taken directly to their landing page here, which once again is branded with your firm's information and it's so easy to do. You have your firm's logo, your location, and this is what your client sees. They can say yes or no to each item individually. They can click on it, scroll through it. And it's such an easy experience for both you and the client. So you'll see here when they decline an option, their balance automatically updates. So there's no math. It happens automatically. And then they could submit their approval directly to you. Going back into Ivy over here, you'll be notified once your client submits that approval. And you can also, if they did pay you on that proposal, you'll get it in 2 to 3 business days. And from this proposal, you can easily convert this to an invoice or a purchase order in the click of a button. But I want to show you one of my favorite parts of the project, which is the project tracker. And the project tracker is a game changer because it is everything in your project, all of those products and services, and it breaks it down for you by stage, by price, and it's compiled for you automatically. So you don't need to create this tracker in Excel anymore. It's amazing. It's literally my favorite part. So you can see over here this item, the one that we had just added to our proposal. You could see all of the different details associated with it. This is where you can add all of your shipping, your delivery information. You could see your cost breakdown. And it just gives you that 360-degree view of this product across its life cycle. So that's my favorite part of the project. Outside of that, in Ivy, there's so many things that you can do. You can track your clients, your vendors. You can track your time. We have a time billing section. And we just launched an amazing time billing and to-do list app for your phone. It's available on iPhones and Android phones. And it is so awesome. We just released it last week. And it allows you to track your time on the go. And it'll sync everything directly here to your Ivy account. So truly, Ivy, start to finish, is project management, business management. And we'd love to show you more about this. You can always schedule a demo below. There's a green button that says schedule a demo. You can go ahead and click that to get a one-on-one tailored walkthrough with one of our Ivy reps. And you can always email me, sivan@ivy.co. Tara will go ahead and share my email address in the chat. If you do have any questions, I'm happy to walk you through Ivy and tell you about how it might be a fit for your business. So with that, we wanted to just keep it short and just show you some of the core components. But we hope to see you on Ivy soon.
Thank you, Sivan. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for sticking around and learning more about Ivy and learning more about hardwood flooring. And if you have any questions, you can email Sivan. I put her email here, sivan@ivy.co, or you can email me, tara@ivy.co. And if you'd like more information, if you'd like to take a deeper dive into how Ivy can work for your business specifically, you can schedule another demo. Here, I'll include the link right here in the chat. Schedule at your own convenience. And thank you so much. Have a great Wednesday.
Thank you, guys. Take care.